Come inside and join me as we dissolve the boundaries of sound and fiction. Greetings, my friend, and welcome back to another edition of Sound Fiction. Water can be kind of a scary thing sometimes, don't you agree? I'm not sure about you, but I struggle being in it because I don't always know what's under the surface. Today, we join a group of divers in the Susquehanna River, having a poke around for something that probably shouldn't be there. For a bit more context, feel free to check out episode 42, Feaster. But for now, just relax while we join the onlookers in episode 65 of Sound Fiction, Something Big in the Water. A small crowd gathered by the bank of the Susquehanna River in downtown Harrisburg to watch a group of divers try and fish something out of the water. Whispers of what was going on circulated, but truthfully, no one knew, and the prospect of something interesting taking place was indeed more exciting than the event itself. Onlookers watched as divers took turns going down and coming back up, then back down and back up again, bringing nothing to the surface each time they emerged. Whispers began to intensify as theories grew bolder about what the divers were in there looking for. Some suspected the divers were looking for an item, perhaps as evidence in relation to a violent crime, or better yet, a body part of some kind, maybe even a whole body if the spectators could be so lucky. The divers fished, but still nothing, as they swept slowly down the river. Soon, the crowd was no longer so small, and local police were called in to manage the situation. Naturally, questions were asked, but unfortunately, law enforcement was not permitted to give any answers. This odd level of silence slowly angered the crowd, who felt entitled to know what was going on in their own community. People started to take their phones out and began asking questions, as if they were independent reporters getting to the bottom of a very important issue. When met with more silence, their attitudes became accusatory in nature, insinuating that the police were hiding something. Before long, tensions rose to a point where they could no longer be ignored, and real reporters made their way to the scene for actual news coverage to take place. With local news outlets reporting the story, law enforcement could no longer hold their breath. To everyone's delight, the team of divers were in fact looking for a body, that of a 20-something-year-old male who entered the water for reasons unknown. This explanation did much to settle the crowd's agitation, but also heightened their excitement in the process. Spectators watched even more closely now, monitoring the divers with a bizarre level of attention as they continued to go down and come back up with nothing. Finally, a break in the fruitless repetition. Enthusiastically waving his arm, one diver signaled that he had found something and called for a walkie-talkie. Without delay, a police officer threw one in and handed the other to his captain. "What do you have down there? Over."
I see a foot dangling out of the storm drain, sir. We're gonna need something to tie around it to get a hold of him. Over."
"Okay, how's about a rope? We can attach it to a winch cable and pull it up with a tow truck. Over."
That's not gonna work. He's real deep in there. We need to pull him out first before pulling him up. Over."
Shit, I don't know. Just tell me what you need to make it happen and I'll get it for you. Over.
You got a dog catcher pole? I can loop it around the ankle and leverage it against the drain maybe. Worth a shot. Over.
The animal restraint pole was thrown into the water and handed to the lead diver. He swam back down to the exposed foot, looped it around the ankle, and tightened the loop. Digging his heels into the top of the drain, he pulled the pole towards himself. Unsure of what exactly was going on, the many onlookers recorded vigorously with phones in hand, while news crew cameramen did the same. Eager to see what progress the dive team was making, even police officers leaned forward to see what they would bring up. After a few massive underwater heaves, the divers resurfaced, with the lead speaking into the walkie-talkie.
Captain? We have a bit of a problem. Over.
Yeah, go ahead. What is it? Over.
It seems like something is attached to the leg of the body, sir. Like it's holding it in place. Over.
What do you mean holding it in place? Can you get it out or not? Over.
Like, something is inside the storm drain and it's wrapped around the whole body. We're trying to pull it out, but it's really stuck to whatever's in there. Over.
Ah, Christ. Well, get back down there and figure out what it's stuck to so we can decide what to do. Over. All three divers went back down to where the foot was coming out of the storm drain. With flashlights, they illuminated the area around the leg to reveal a strange reddish-brown substance engulfing it. With another massive pull, the three men yanked on the animal restraint pole, exposing about 6 more inches of leg from the drain opening. To their astonishment, the unknown substance stayed attached, gripping tightly around the calf. Resurfacing, the lead diver relayed their findings.
Sir, there seems to be a strange substance blocking up the whole inside of the drain. We think that's what the body has itself stuck in. Over.
Describe the substance. Over.
Well, I don't know. It's like some kind of brown goo. It seems really thick, though. This body doesn't want to budge. Over.
Okay, well, we're gonna throw you in a knife and let's see if you can cut it out. Over. With the sun going down and daylight leaving the sky, vision became scarce, and floodlights were shown onto the diving area. Back at the drain pipe, divers pulled as hard as they could on the leg and attempted to cut away the odd gooey substance. What happened next, they never could have anticipated. Resurfacing in a quick and panicked manner, the lead diver radioed the shore.
There's something wrong down there. Over.
What's going on? Over.
That thing down there. It's alive. Over.
Are you serious? How do you know? Over.
We cut away part of it from the leg to help dislodge the body, and it just grabbed the knife. Like it was trying to make us stop. Over.
No, you can't be right. You got it wrong. I'm sure you just dropped it. Over.
No, you don't understand. It knows what it's doing. It reached out and grabbed the knife, and it sucked the body back into the drain. The only thing we can see is the pole attached to the ankle. Over.
All right, that's it. We're bringing in the tow truck. You just pull on that pole as much as you can to get the foot out. I don't care if it's just the ankle. We're reeling that sucker up. Over. The back and forth between police captain and lead diver continued, even getting heated at certain moments, as the lead diver expressed concern with going back down. Onlookers could feel the tension mounting, even though they couldn't hear the conversation. Body language alone told everyone that things were not going as planned, and officers on the perimeter dug their heels in firmly to keep the crowd at a distance. Eager to know more, lights brightened and cameras zoomed in on the action. After much convincing, the 3 shook divers agreed to go back down and pull the body out enough to expose its leg. Once it was out, a tow truck reel would be attached and the body would be pulled up no matter what its condition. Nervously, the diver swam back down and approached the drain entrance. Trying to forget what he had just witnessed, the lead diver wrapped his fingers around the pole. He hesitated, reminding himself of how the mucousy substance quickly formed a makeshift appendage while it was being cut, and snatched the knife out of his hands as if to say, "Stop that, you fool." In a desperate attempt to get this ordeal over with, he planted his feet on either side of the drain entrance and pulled with all his might, slowly dislodging the body and bringing the foot closer toward himself. The others stood behind him and dug their feet into the muddy ground, using full strength to pull the pole once it was within grasp. With the leg now visible, the lead gripped its ankle to pull the body out further. Thick, red goo clung tightly to the limb and widened as more leg was pulled from the drain's mouth. What would have been the knee was now free from the pipe, although this mysterious substance covered it completely, refusing to let go and pulling back in response to the diver's efforts. The lead signaled with his hands for the rear diver to go up and retrieve the winch cable, while he held tightly and resisted the strain of this unidentifiable organism. Now, with only 2 divers holding on, the capabilities of this gelatinous beast became apparent. For while the divers pulled, it rhythmically yanked the body back, as if another person were inside the pipe, playing tug-of-war with the men outside. These harsh pulls from the organism were not random. They were staggered and strategic, intuitively timed for moments when the divers were unaware or resting. This indicated that the creature was intelligent and prepared to fight for what it had captured. Unwilling to lose the body once more, the divers secured themselves and pulled with might, desperate for their third member to return with the cable. At the surface, police struggled to deliver the winch as vegetation between the bank and the water's edge proved to be a challenging obstacle. Several throws from the officers on land failed to reach the diver, with time not seeming to be a priority for them. This changed, however, when another diver emerged from the surface, panicked and out of breath. He yelled something to the officers on land, and the pace of their movements sped up considerably. Chatter from the crowd could be heard, as these 2 divers pleaded desperately for the tow cable. With one giant heave, the winch landed within a meter of the 2 men before they grabbed it and swam down hurriedly. The frantic scene underwater, of which the others could not see, was a shocking one. The lead diver, who was closest to the entrance, now had the top half of his body inside the storm drain. This mysterious creature had somehow gotten a hold of him and was now consuming his body from the waist up. Kicking and screaming like a helpless child, the lead did everything in his power to break free, but without success. Swiftly, the others wrapped the cable around both of his ankles and tightened the winch. With one diver yanking the cable and one swimming toward the surface, not a single precious moment could afford to be wasted. Once the message was received, the tow truck began reeling, and all anyone could do now was watch. So watch they did, with eyes wide and pupils dilated, as an eerie silence shrouded the cool night air. The only notable sound was the tow cable's whine, which hopefully reeled in all of the answers that everyone so terribly desired. Steadily it ascended, and the crowd of onlookers leaned forward, focusing all of their attention onto whatever was coming up. The anticipation mounted to an unbearable point, which presented a perfect time for something to go wrong. A loud crash. Stuck in place and jerking uncontrollably, the cable appeared to be caught, or at the very least, struggling against resistance of some kind. The crowd oohed in response as the tow truck began shaking, with both front tires raising inches off the ground. Wanting to act, but unsure how, police looked around for an obvious order to be given. However, there was none, and before action could be taken, a loud snap and release rang through the air. After one full second, which felt more like a minute, the lead diver shot out of the water and about 10 feet into the air before landing back in with a dramatic splash. He popped up in perfect view, lit heavily from the floodlights, and the crowd screamed. Almost all of the skin from his face was gone, and without hesitation, he yelled, "It's feasting! It's growing! And it'll never stop!" Just then, the diver was pulled down with immense force, and silence re-entered the night, but only for a moment. Calmly, but not slowly, a large, red, gelatinous appendage, like a massive tentacle, made its way up from where the diver had disappeared. It rose higher and higher, as those on shore watched nervously and filmed with their phones. More and more it ascended, to a seemingly impossible height, about 50 feet or so, before swiftly crashing downwards into the crowd. In one clean motion, it managed to grab a small handful of people and pull them into the water. Screams of terror rang out, whilst immediate frenzy befell the crowd. People scattered in all directions, trampling one another in the process. Police opened fire into the water, not for any logical reason, but out of instinct that it would possibly help. It only took seconds for the crowd to disperse, but less than that for a small group of innocent bystanders to become part of the feast. Out of ammo and ideas, the police called for backup. Within minutes it came, but not the kind of backup Harrisburg PD had intended to request. This backup came from much higher in the chain of command. A convoy of black, unmarked SUVs pulled up on the main road and shut it off. 3 men exited each vehicle, toting black MP5 submachine guns with laser sights and wearing tactical gear of the same color. In unison, they approached the riverbank and systematically monitored the water for disturbances. These men approached the task with such a high level of robotic precision that none of the officers already on scene even considered interfering with their operation. The level of silence that accompanied the scene now was haunting. One of the men in this conspicuous entourage approached the police captain with something to say.
Agent Dyer, FBI Protocols Unit. Who's in charge here?
Well, that'd be me, Agent. What's going on right now?
I need you to collect all your men and bring them across the street immediately. You will soon be taken to a debriefing center and given instructions for the next steps going forward. We've got it from here.
Whoa, hold on a second. I'm not prepared to do anything until I know exactly what's going on and what we're dealing with.
Captain, with all due respect, you're not prepared to even understand what we're dealing with, let alone act in anyone's best interest. Now, for the safety of you and your men, go across the street so you can be escorted to the debriefing center. We will handle things from here.
In that moment, 4 men in hazmat suits walked past carrying clear bags and what appeared to be field test kits of some kind. The 2 divers previously in the water were now on land and had been stripped completely naked with their scuba gear confiscated. Across the road, another man walked with a large Ziploc bag full of cell phones, while others seized news crew cameras and recording equipment from their vans. It became clear that this situation was now out of the local PD's hands, and cooperation was the only option. Looking back at the naked divers, the captain witnessed them being hauled into the back of an unmarked van before signaling for his men to cross the street. There was no news story about that night's events, no social media posts or commentary about them either. To those who were not there, it was as if nothing had ever happened, and to those who had lost someone that night, no real answers were given. Even for the ones who did bear witness to the evening's shocking events, the truth was extremely unclear. The only thing for certain being that in the Susquehanna River that night, there was something big in the water. Early the next morning, as sunrise kissed the gentle ripples of the river's edge, a fishing pole stood, wedged firmly into the ground. Peacefully, it rested next to an empty lawn chair, undisturbed and surrounded by nature's beauty. Its line extended far out into the water, with a red and white bobber floating softly on the surface. Suddenly, and without warning, the line jerked, and the pole bent. At last, a bite. If you made it through the whole story, I want to say thank you for listening and supporting the show. If you really want to show some support, leave a like, comment, positive rating on this podcast, or share it with some friends who also love dark fiction. A massive thank you to Morrison James for voicing Agent Dyer. And as always, take care until the next time, when we dissolve the boundaries of sound and fiction.